Well, good evening. Look how quiet it is. Hello everybody, I've already seen Andy Miller. How are you, Andy? Thank you. Yes, thanks for your message. Same to you and your family and all the rest. Right, boys and girls, I'm going to sit behind the kit. I'm going to be exceptionally brave tonight. So all I'm going to try and do is to find out if I can connect first to be able to bear with me. There we are, turn my media off. Here we go. Dan Tub Thumper, howdy. How are you, Dan? You okay? Right, we're going to chat today. I'm going to be exceptionally brave. We're going to talk about paradiddles, okay? So there's a few on now, and hopefully a few more will join as we go along. It might be a little quieter this evening because many are on holidays, but we will see. Just very briefly about the shop and what we are doing. We've already started to bring new stock in for the new year. So there'll be a change. I want to show you this fantastic setup before long on videos. This is a demonstration kit at the top end of the shop now for you all. It's the Pearl rack system. This is the curved one. I've got the 2-box electric brain with a few pads and an extra pedal down there, plus the acoustic kit. So there's this hybrid setup. So I've set it up to show people of all the options that a rack system can do with this beautiful Pearl kit here. So we've got cowbells, we've got electric cymbals, got tambourine, obviously the cymbals there, effect cymbal, china, and so on. So it's really, really good. It's lovely to sit behind it, if I'm honest. So there we are. We've got up to 9 of us, 10 of us on already. And hello, ADM drummer 1991. Sorry if I don't always recognize your names on the old internet, boys and girls. Roy and Michael, how are you doing? Good. Right then, so we're going to be super brave, because some will watch these videos back after, obviously. We're going to talk about the big question. So, do we need paradiddles? So first of all, we're going to say, well, what is a paradiddle? So I'll explain that in just a minute. But some people will always say, of course, and others will say, no. For me, do you need paradiddles as a question is you don't. However, don't turn off and scream at me yet, because there's another question to that. Should we use paradiddles? Well, that's a different question altogether. So why am I sticking my neck out saying, do we need paradiddles? Well, the reason for that is where they come from and how many people where they have produced records or been on records where they've never actually been used. Single stroke rolls and straight playing has been used on so many songs that have become big hits. There's not a paradiddle in sight. So the truth of the matter is you don't need them. However, should we? As we said, is a different story, and I'll come into that in a little bit. And I think that we should use them personally. So I'll just give you a little example of what most people would play in the way of music. It's called common time. It's 4/4. So we simply doing. How many records have had that in various speeds and various styles and just played dead straight? And a few little drum fills on the old single stroke roll. Very simple. We've even got things like a train beat. No paradiddle inside there. It's just straightforward, drive a little bit quicker. Really good funky people dancing to some lovely feels just created by single stroke rolls. So that is a fact. Many bands will never feature a paradiddle in their music whatsoever. But should we use them, and what are they? And again, I'll come back to should we use them. For me, I would say yes, and the reason why. But first of all, what are they, where did they come from, and so on, okay? So there's a few more on now as well at the moment. Paul Williams, how are you? How are you, Paul? Lovely looking kit. It is fab. It's stunning to sit behind. So as I said, you're more than welcome when we come back on the 4th, 5th of January to just come down. This is what this is here for people to have a listen and a try. We connect this up to the PA and then they can get an understanding of it and have a little play. That's what it's there for. So paradiddles, where did they come from? Well, the history of paradiddles really, unfortunately, is not a very good one. I have got a customer, and he is going to come down and do one of these live streams with me, and we're going to talk more in depth about the marching rudimental drumming. Again, more of where it come from, little drummer boy, where that comes from, all these different things between the different grips of matched grip, traditional grip. We're going to go through all of that as a live stream on its own. For now, just briefly, the snare drum in its original form was unfortunately used for going to war. So what they needed to do is to instruct the army of what to do. So if you've got 1,000 men standing wanting to know what's happening, the human voice can only carry so far. But if you've got 10 drummers there, and then the instruction is to march, and you create a simple rudiment within paradiddles, you can instruct that army of what to do very, very quickly. So that's really where they came from. They were signals for marching drummers. So what does that got to do with pop music? Well, it hasn't, does it? And that's why, in some respects, the camps start to split as time ticks on. So that was the first thing, is that really is where they come from. That's the originating of the snare drum, as far as we know. The snare, the drum kit, from our point of view, of where this came from, how it adapted or evolved over time, is really from America. So before the American Civil War, the snare drum was one man's job. You'd have a cymbal man sometimes, or predominantly a snare man with a bass drum man, and that was it. I think it was the Chinese, actually, after the American Civil War, who pretty much brought cymbals to the drum kit, and Europeans came over and started to bring things like cowbells and wood blocks and things, and it was the immigration of people coming in that started to create the drum kit being different to the marching snare man and the bass drum man. So after the American Civil War, which I have written down here, is 1861 to 1865, you're looking at a time of obviously huge grief for people. Men went to war, they didn't come home. It's the same with any war. It's huge destruction, massive amount of sorrow and grief for people. So after the American Civil War, the story is that people wanted more, I feel like, more freedom. They wanted to enjoy life more, and they wanted to dance. So believe it or not, the snare drum as a military style started to change, and it started to change from that time, really. So the bass drum man was pretty much done away with, and one drummer would be required to play a bass drum plus a snare drum. Now the interesting thing is there was no foot pedal or anything like that at the time. So they would put a bass drum there, a snare drum there, and they would create these ragtime sort of rhythms, which were very simple, just your... And that's really all they were doing, is starting to get people to dance. So the interesting thing for the snare drum, through history, it's going more from this military feel into a hand clap, which we naturally know is the 2 and the 4. And people wanted that backbeat to get them to dance so they could clap along with. If you're not a drummer, surely you just want a simple beat just so that you can have fun. And it could be a 3/4. People would dance for hours and hours and hours. If you go to European countries, you know, the accordion is played, the mandolin is played. Again, the drums can be very... That's what people want. They just want to come together and dance. So the snare drum starts to change. So the paradiddles, or rudiments, as I said, were really from marching. They are made up of 2 things, your singles and your doubles. So a para, if you don't already know, there's a few more on tonight. Hello, Brock, Gladys, Steve, how are you, buddy? Well done. Steve Roberts, hi Lee, I remembered. And Dave, Welshie, still in kit mate, so thanks for that. So, back to this now then. If you don't know, and the reason I wanted to be brave and put this out there live, is there is a surprising amount of boys and girls that come into the shop And because we're very relaxed here, they will tell me that they don't do the old paradiddles. You know, like when you were in school, you daren't tell your teacher you didn't know something because you were embarrassed in front of the class. It doesn't happen here. Folk come in and they say, look, Lee, do you know what? I don't actually use them. I don't really get them. I don't understand them. And I've never used them in playing. And they're out there playing every week. So what is it? And I will often ask a student, and they can be grade 3, grade 4, grade 5 students that will come into the shop, and then they'll have a lesson with us. And I'll say, do you understand what a paradiddle is? And this is, to be honest with you, about 90% of the folk that will come in here, if I ask that question, unless they really know, will tend to go, yeah, it's this. So I say, that's fine, but what about a paradiddle diddle then? And then everybody pauses. Ah, right, or okay. So just in case, if you already know, then good on you. But if you don't know, I always go through this with students. A para is simply a single stroke, one per hand. Para or para. Left, right, doesn't matter. So para is single, diddle is your double. Diddle, diddle, or diddle, diddle. So when we say paradiddle, that's it. If you want to roll that out, you have to swing from left to right. Paradiddle, paradiddle. And that is it. Paradiddle diddle naturally, therefore, would be para with diddle, diddle. And so on. Double para, two lots of para. Para, then a diddle, diddle. Para, diddle, para, diddle. And so on. And there's loads of them. There is out there 40 essential rudiments, whether that is something you want to spend your life on, as I discussed when Bob come down, is up to you. For me, I wouldn't do that. I would tend to work on a few and become good at them. Now, why would I say that I think that it's worth doing? Why should we get into paradiddles? Because most music that you will play, if you go out to entertain people on a Saturday evening, will not necessarily cover paradiddles. And the reason I say that, I'm going to give you an example of starting up a band. Which one is the one that makes you smile more? I do this with everybody who comes in the shop and asks this question, on every student, and there's always one that makes them smile. So if I count the band in on the count of 4, common time, which is 4/4 drum beat, right? Common time, 4/4. So if I say 1, 2, 3, 4, that sounds okay. It's nice, fair enough. Now what happens if I put a little rudiment called a flam in there? I can put the bass drum in with the flam. I can do a 1, 2, 3. So a little rudiment now makes a difference, and that's quite nice. Now what happens if I just stick half a diddle in? 1, 2. And everybody smiles that one and says, oh, that's the one I like. So what is that? Just right, left, right. And then back to singles. And it's really wicked because you can do it any way you want. You can even do it straight off the snare. 1, 2. That's the problem with live, guys, when you're on your own in here. Ooh, never use a camera live, it's terrible. So you can just use it any way you want around the kit. It makes it more sort of exciting, nicer, and it pushes the band straight away. Because you took a little bit of time to work on a diddle. You could do that with single stroke, but it's harder. Now, other things will take a lot more work if they are single stroke only. So if you have such things as a Mozambique, for an example, then you need to get into these singles and doubles, these rudiments, to be able to create that sort of a feel. So we need that little bit of push, and without working on singles and doubles and paradiddles, as it were, your rudiments, you're not going to really get into them. Now, the other reason I feel you should work on them, although we're going to mention again now that they shouldn't overtake everything you do. You don't want to be throwing them in there for the sake of it all the time. Rhythm is key. Music and simplification for people to dance to is the thing. But when you can be a bit cheeky, chuck them in. It's like salt on your food. Just brings the flavour out, as opposed to pouring a ton of salt on your food and murdering it. Don't overkill them. A little illustration or a little thought on that, I would say is Michael Jackson's moonwalk. Do you remember Michael Jackson? He could walk forwards going backwards. I can't do it, so I shan't. If you remember, moonwalk came out, I think in the 80s. It took the world by storm as a dance. However, if you watch the first video in which Michael Jackson danced on that, he actually danced for quite some time before and quite some time after. It's only about 3 or 4 seconds long. So he's dancing away, he does his thing, he does this moonwalk, and then he carries on dancing. And that took the world by storm. And for me, that's like drum fills and paradiddles and so on is a bit like that. The mainstay is your rhythm, your pattern, your work. And then you just drop this little thing in there and people go, whoa, what was that? That was nice. But it has to fit. It's got to fit within the music. And I think when you do that, people really, really get, you know, taken back and look and they enjoy it. So really, really, really good. So that's that. So where were we? So we're talking about when to put them in and also why we would not overuse them. We've mentioned that. And the sort of things that you can do with them. So again, singles and doubles and using paradiddles. If you want to create a nice rhythm, if we strip that to single stroke roll, look how much work there's going to be shifting that around like mad. See, so it's a rudiment like a paradiddle can just keep you going and you haven't got to move very far. When I was a young lad, I was like a bit of a maniac when I was playing drums, you know, you run around like a fool. As you get a little older, you need to think a little more, take your time, change your technique, but you don't actually have to slow down at all. For me, that's a little bit like a young lad sees a wall, he runs to it, he jumps over, he scrambles over the wall, says, look how quick that is. When he's a little older, he stops for a second and notices there's a door on the left, so he goes through the door. Same effect, you're on the other side, but one was foolish and ran and the other one thought about it. So when you use diddles and paradiddles in your playing, you can actually reduce the amount of energy your body needs to move around the fills and the kicks and all the rest. So once again, a para is a single stroke, a diddle is a double stroke, and you literally play them as you speak them. So a triple para, diddle, and that's it. So a little tip of learning them, I would say, a little tip in the way of learning your paras and your diddles is, for me again with a student, I always express to the student, never play louder than you can speak and never play faster than you can speak. Because if you're playing a paradiddle very fast and you're getting confused with it, the brain is not able to process it. You're better off sitting down and doing, and then explain to yourself what you're doing. Paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. And you do that for ages and ages and ages, over and over and over and over. And then you try and chase again, I always say this, chase down the sound. Feel for a sound, like a train or something moving. That's on the 2 and the 4 again, isn't it? Bump, back, bump, back. And if you start to enjoy playing those paradiddles, and as you start to play them and use them and they become a rhythm, you actually start to fall in love with them. And they're really, really, really good tools. I always think that a lot of us will sort of play music, and at the end of the song, we go to just do a bit of running on the cymbals at the end of the song, and then we look at the drum kit and there's like a drum fill expected, and we got single strokes in our hand, and as we run in and going shh, and the band roll going and then we look at the drum kit and we don't know what to do. If you learn a few rhythms, as in paradiddles, 6-stroke rolls, paradiddle diddles, you can quicker from there to there to there and so on to see less work, less energy, and it's much quicker for you. And again, you're not sitting there running around the kit going, oh, I don't know, I don't feel fulfilled with what I've just done. Paradiddles are fantastic if you control them and you learn to play them nice. So boys and girls, hopefully you've enjoyed that. It's very hard to do it just suddenly on your own, as I said, live on a subject matter. But I just wanted to show you a little bit of where it come from, as I said, and what happened. It was Ludwig, the two brothers of Ludwig, that first invented the drum pedal that allowed the bass drum to drop down like this. A lot of drummers at the time rejected it, they didn't want it, but eventually it took over. And then, of course, the hi-hats with the cymbals, and they started to evolve like this, just out of interest. So there are those two camps, as I said, where, if you like, it starts to split. You've got your parades and your military police bands and so on, with your miners in South Wales, all of them where those rudimental drums work, and then popular music where it didn't. One of the other reasons that a lot of pop music didn't have rudiments in is that as music started to come over from America to Britain and the radio was on, because a lot of Americans may have been taught in school march and snare work, in Britain it wasn't common. So therefore people would just listen to the music, and when they listened they made up what they felt the rhythms were. A classic example of that is Buddy Holly's Peggy Sue. So in Britain, Peggy Sue would just be played because that's all people knew. It was just this single stroke roll. When in actual fact, he did play. So he was playing a paradiddle in a triangular form like that, over and over and over. You see, so there was a difference. But because we listen to music and we think that's what it is, we just simply play what our hearts want to play, and away we go. So these camps sort of split. I think it was more the time of YouTube coming together, where people started to see, and the education opened up, that these camps come back together again, and away to go. The problem is now we live in a world of chops. It's just about, look how fast my diddles are, and we lose the music, which is what I talked to Bob about a couple of lessons back. We discussed that very thing, that don't allow the soul of the music to be destroyed by this dry marching feel. It has to blend and work together. Together. Okay, right then, boys and girls. So, should we use them then? I think we really should. As I said, the start off, the feel within, just the whole texture of diddles can be fantastic within a drum fill. I use one where there's a build-up, right and left here. I sing a song and I just build it up, and then instead of me trying to go around, I just simply put a paradiddle on these two, and it's something like, and that's what I do. And it sounds lovely when the whole band are in there. It's very easy to do, it's effective, and away you go again. Look at the energy that you're not using. You're just simply there between the two. I love it. It's really good. So how do we get better again? Slow, gentle, talk, methodical, keep on working. Eventually you will fall in love with using paradiddles and different feels in your playing. What it then can lead on to is you start to strengthen up the weaker hand, because the diddle will insist on that. How you get good with paras and diddles is single stroke to double stroke to single to double. It's no good trying to do paradiddles with a weak left hand on double strokes. So you've got to do your 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no option in it. Back and forth like that, and then there. Now again, as you get into your double strokes, and that's all you're doing all the time, I would always suggest, again, chase a feel or a sound. Put music on, the music pulls you towards doing a sound. So notice this is one strike a little louder. It's the first one on the right. Da, ba, 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 ba. And just get into that. You can go quicker, you can go slower. Slower and good is better than fast and rubbish. On you can do it with the left hand as well. So again, for me, it's a training. Close your eyes, imagine that train climbing up the mountain. It's working hard, and I just do that. And we play that for ages and ages and ages. Just constantly playing. Doubles, improving, look at the hands, film yourself, watch how you do them, and so on. Singles, and then doubles, and so on. And if you keep on doing that, eventually your singles and doubles will become stronger, which means your paradiddles become stronger, and you'll be able to drop them in. And what happens is when this baby becomes stronger, the weaker hand, depending whether you're right or left-handed, your rhythms improve. It's bound to. Because if the right hand does everything and this just follows, it's like, well, let me have a go. Let me join the party. Oh, but no, you're only a smack on the 2 and the 4. But once we start improving, whichever grip you use, little tiny example there, that's doing all the work. This is the one that's working hard. That's not doing a great deal. You see? The other thing that it can start doing is allow you to start pushing your fills with the left hand before the right hand. So we call them like inverted doubles. 1, 2, and you start with the left hand. I get this wrong now. See, so you get the roll going with the left hand first and then up. It just changes the flavour. Mr. Steve Gadd obviously is the master at that. But it just makes it's just really, really, really sweet to do. Even again with sounds, if you want to create a rainfall on your drums. Gently work at them, it's almost effortless. So again, me being brave, it's trying to show you live, taking the risk that all these things will go wrong and I won't know what I'm doing here. If I can push myself to do that after many, many years of not playing drums and come on live and just say, look, this is what I feel, I'm sure that through 2022 or whenever you actually watch this video, going forward, you could apply yourself to maybe push into that camp of rudiments if you've not done it. Once you get one rudiment under your belt, you will start to open the door and you will enjoy them. But take your time, do it gently, work on them, and you'll keep on going. So one last example, and we're going to go home then, boys and girls. I was cycling back and forth to work, and I saw Mike Johnson do a video, and he did a paradiddle, and then a 6-stroke roll. So he puts the 2 diddles in the center. So it's right, left, left, right, right, left. And he shoved these 2 things together, and I thought I liked it, but I didn't quite work out where it would apply and how it would apply in music or what I was going to play. So I thought, but I'm determined to do it anyway. So I was cycling back and forth to work, and I'd use my thumbs, and I was literally doing this on the handlebars. So I was going paradiddle, diddle, and I changed to numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Paradiddle, diddle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Took me ages, up and down, up and down. When I was going up the hills and I was bored, I was just doing this. Hit a few cars. So I just did then paradiddle, diddle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I kept rolling and rolling and rolling. But then when I started putting on the drum kit, didn't know how it applied, but I started to think again, the backbeat. Where would people play? Clap to, how would it feel? So all I did was I just kept playing it and playing it and playing it. Picked up the speed, and then I put it to the kit, and I started thinking about where the 2 and the 4 belong, and then it came into my own feel. Now I know this would have been done by a million other people before me, but it was important to me. I was like, wow, that's my little feel. So again, it's very much like the flutter lick or like inverted double, but it become my thing. around it. And then I was realizing you can put it in shuffles as a fill. You can do lots with it. And I started to take the right hand out more and let the left hand do more. So, and I just start to play around with my own. Okay, so that's what I started to do. When you're warm and you're with the band and everything is moving, you can just drop them in every now and again, and it works really, really, really well. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, the reason for doing this is there are so many boys and girls that come in here and say they've always wanted to play diddles, but they have never, ever, ever quite mastered them, and they don't know what to do. Just grab hold of the videos that show you what a paradiddle is, paradiddle, and so on. Take your time, start to learn them, and then apply them nicely into your music. Not heavily, but nicely. And I reckon you will absolutely fall in love with them. Okay, so I'm going to go now in 2 minutes. There's a couple more. Matthew Bosch, always taught to play everything, both-handed, teaching my 10-year-old son at the moment, and rudiments are the main lessons. Great stuff. Well, there you go. Excellent. So that's what you want to do again. But, however, make sure that it's fun and it's enjoyable and it's part of the playing and not the whole thing. Don't get the book, as we said again with Bob, where you're just so dry because it's just like a piece of dry toast. That's no good. It needs to be within enjoyment and love and playing. And don't forget, one last little thing. The old... oh, I've forgotten the song now. Sing, 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 is it? Where, actually, again, it sounds like sort of that sort of feeling. You can do it as singles, but I believe that was more along the lines of 2 doubles, 3 on the right, 1 on the left, and then paradiddle, paradiddle. So I've been sort of looking at that, thinking about it, and I want to work on that now and just get it wrong, because it's now got to as well swing to get that nice swingy feel that, you know, all sort of big band and all that needs to do. So you swing that bass drum and mess around and you have great, great fun with it, guys, okay? So I don't want to as well sort of, I've spent 14 hours learning a few super fast chops and chuck them out there and go, oh, look at this. I'm trying to do these in a simple way to encourage folk that are not doing it, or students, rather than demoralizing them and thinking, oh, well, I'll never do that. So that's why I'm not tending to want to push the boat much with them. I just want to encourage and so on. If you want to see me doing the chops a little bit quicker, or how I do them, you'll have to watch some of the music videos when they come out next year. Okay, so take care. Thank you as always. Lovely boys and girls. There's a few on. We've done okay this evening, and it is holiday time, so well done. Thank you. Please keep watching. We'll see whether there's a pre-recorded one for next week, or I might come back down to the shop. So new stock coming in, more videos happening, with more music coming out. We got, actually, there's going to be 5 little helpers in the new year coming into Cariad, all doing different things part-time to help push the spray booth, help push the shop and the teaching as well. Okay, so thanks again, guys. I'm going to run over there. I'll do a video walk around of all this pearl rack system very, very soon. Thanks again. Take care. Over and out. As they say.